What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush. Let's talk Jets. It's been a minute. How is everybody doing? I hope you're having a great summer. Hope you had an awesome holiday weekend. I cannot believe we're in the second week of July and training camp's only a couple weeks away. Summer is flying. The heat is hot. It's been like 95 degrees every day in New Jersey, which is ridiculous. But the biggest question you get I get when going to barbecues and parties is, what is the realistic expectation for the Jets in 2024? Now, keep in mind, this was a team last year, while they're being featured on Hard Knocks and making all the headlines for the Aaron Rodgers trade, that was considered by many to be one of the top teams in the AFC that can make a run. Some people called them a Super Bowl contender, whatever else. The season fell apart, but you look at last year's team to this year's team, you can make an argument it's a better team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And that's saying a lot because they had talent last year. So before I get ripped to shreds, I know in the comments, non-Jet fans love going after me, but on paper, I think the Jets had the best roster in the AFC East. Now, according to PFF, the Jets had the best position groups of everybody, but you can give the Dolphins, say, you have a better running back room, better receiver room. You can say the Bills have the better quarterback. But I think as a whole, the Jets have on paper, a very good team with game-breaking talent on both sides of the ball. On offense, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. On defense, you get Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner. C.J. Mosley's still really good. So the pieces are all there. So in an all-in year like this, because the way I look at it is all in, the Jets doubled down on everybody. Doubled down on Hackett, Rodgers, everybody for this year. So it's like you have to maximize this opportunity because this window is going to be closing. You're not guaranteed to see Rodgers here next year. And a lot of your favorite players are on the last year of their contract or only signed a one-year deal. They may not be here next year either. So if you don't do it, you got to strike when the iron's hot, and just now. And my expectation is doing exactly that. Saleh's coaching for his job. Rodgers is playing for his career. A lot of these guys are playing for new contracts. The whole Haason Reddick thing, however that plays out. All these young Jet stars are on the way up to getting their new contracts. So this is a lot of pieces all in place where it's like it has to happen now. If it doesn't happen now, some people are saying, well, they could win 8 or 9 games. Will you be disappointed? If the Jets make the playoffs for the first time in whatever it is, 14 years, it's not a disappointment. But my mindset and expectations higher than that. You should expect 11 wins and be legit there the last 2 weeks of the season going for the AFC East. And that's it. Now, there are some concerns with the Jets. And for me, it starts with Coach Saleh is the first one. I'm not his biggest fan. And his excuse all throughout has been he didn't have the quarterback. Well, now you have the quarterback coming off a serious injury and an offense that everybody is questioning. Saleh and his arrogance said, you know what, we're not making any changes. We're keeping the play caller and everybody else, Downing, Carter, and Hackett. We're keeping the whole circus is staying. So he doubled down and said, we're all keeping them. Now, if this team desperately needs to start out fast, because I'm curious to see how Saleh handles the pressure of winning if the offense is stagnant again this year. Rodgers will be bitching and moaning. The players are going to be like, what are we doing here? How does he handle that heat? How does he handle the pressure of the expectation of all these primetime games? Everybody's expecting big-time performances week in and week out. How does he handle if Rodgers isn't playing his best right off the bat? Which is another concern. Now, for me, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be elite. I know everybody wants to see him come back and play at an MVP-type level. I don't think that's going to happen. But if he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, that is more than enough for this Jets team to make a deep run to the playoffs. But how does he coach Rodgers? And Rodgers, once he comes back, will he embrace a team that maybe wants to ground the pound and play small ball, not small ball, but kind of control the ball more? Or will he want to open up and say, you know what, I want to show off what I can do and show that I'm not done, I'm not washed up. The other thing, obviously, injuries are a concern for every team. The Jets have some players you're worried about. Obviously, Tyron Smith. I think, even Morgan Moses coming off an injury. Mike Williams coming off an injury. A lot of guys you're kind of worried about. I think the two things I kind of have a little more confidence in is if Rodgers is banged up or gets a little shaky and needs to get to sit, Tyrod Taylor is probably the best backup the Jets have had in a long time. That's a huge upgrade. Having better O-line depth. Having Fashanu behind Tyron Smith's good. Carter Warren, year 2 is going to be better. I think the Jets aren't done adding pieces there, but the O-line should be better. The backup quarterback's going to be better. The one concern I do have is the Jets are taking a calculated risk with a lot of young players in skill positions. And what I mean by that is you say, okay, Breece Hall, everybody loves him. Probably one of the top 3 or 4 running backs in football. Behind him, you have rookies. You have Tariq Cohen. Not a lot of experience back there, which, it's fine. Young, explosive, a lot of energy. They've got to learn the speed of the NFL, just the excitement of the game, the physicality of the game, do all these things. And if Brees gets banged up, do you have confidence in a rookie taking over for him or in a big spot, picking up the blitz or doing all these things? The wide receiver group, Mike Williams, we don't know when he's going to be ready to play. The Jets, counting on Allen Lazard, I think they're kind of forced to because of his salary. A little bit worrisome there. But after them, a lot of young players, again, that haven't proven anything in the NFL. Jason Brownlee and Gibson and Herb Charles. Doesn't make you feel all that great. So you look at running back, a lot of inexperience. Wide receiver group, not a lot of experience. Tight end group, everybody loves Conklin, who, if he stays healthy, could have a huge year. After him, you have Ruckert, who we all like him, hasn't stayed healthy, been banged up, not a lot of productivity. Kenny Yeboah, done nothing. So you look at the Jets, and I'm hoping that they're treating everything now like a trial. Like, they went through mini camp, they went through OTAs. Now it's like you go into training camp and you say, okay, listen, we have a chance to go live now. The pads come on. If we don't like what we see, will the Jets be aggressive to make moves and say, you know what? We need an upgrade here. Like, I would feel a lot better if they got somebody else behind Mike Williams other than Allen Lazard. Because you're like 1 injury away to having Garrett Wilson try to carry the load, which is not ideal. But again, I think the Jets' thinking is that if Aaron Rodgers is playing at a pretty good level, he can spread the ball around and make, chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? So that's the one thing where you kind of get a little bit nervous with that. How Rodgers play, the coaching. On the defensive side of the ball, I get a lot of messages about this Haason Reddick thing. Let that play out first. I think he's going to show up for camp. He's not going to want to lose money. Will they get a new deal done? To me, you kind of find a way where they can probably guarantee him some money, keep him in the mix, maybe get him here next year. They'll work something out. He won't be a factor in terms of like a distraction. Some pressure on Will McDonald to step up. I mean, they let John Franklin Myers go, let him go. They traded him. Bryce Huff left. So there's some young players that are expecting more. They let Quentin Jefferson go, Al Woods go. So Kinlaw, Michael Clemens has got to step up. But the defense, you kind of have faith in Ulbrich and Sal to figure things out. And the defense, if they take a step back from last year statistically, I think in terms of turnovers, they may create more because they should be playing with a lead. Last year, they had to play perfect. This year, they could actually be ball hawks and be aggressive and blitz and get to the quarterbacks. I think statistically, they're going to do a lot more for the offense than they did last year in terms of just getting the ball back. So they're going to have more chances. So to me, it's got to be win the AFC East. And anything less than that, you walk away like, man, because you just don't know what's going to happen next year. And it's tough to say this is like your last chance to make a serious run. But you kind of almost feel like that because there's no guarantees for next year. There's really not, especially with Rodgers. And I know he says all the right things. I want to play it 3 or 4 more years. You wonder if he has this huge redemption year where he throws for 4,000 yards and say 29 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's proven it, and they win, a playoff game or something. He's like, you know what? I've done my part here in New York. I came here to do what I wanted to do, and that was it. So let me know what you guys think. But I don't, for a while I was saying, well, they could win 10 games. No, the AFC East is up for grabs, and the Jets, instead of always being like, well, we should be close. No, the expectation is winning. That's what we should expect as fans. We should expect a lot more out of this team because they've talked it, they promote themselves all over social media. Now they've got to actually walk it. If they don't walk it, a lot of these guys won't be here next year.